Okay, so I have 4 people online for my presentation.
Hi, I'm Alicia.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Ruth Ann.
Hi.
Okay, and then I have 1 in-person listener, so then I will go ahead and get started. Although violence caused by firearms is preventable, it happened so much in 2022 that there was an average of 1 death every 11 minutes. 48,204 people died due to firearms in 2022, only proving that gun violence is a public health tragedy. For every death caused by firearms, other people are shot and survive, shot at and not hurt, or become witnesses to the violence. To put it simply, this is a huge health and safety problem which causes impacts that can last a lifetime, not just for the US, but for people around the world. Unfortunately, statistics show that the trends in gun violence show no signs of slowing down. Instead, death rates due to guns are expected to climb. Whether at school, work, or in a home setting, it may be likely you or someone you know will experience a less than favorable situation with a gun. Although this is sad, it is the reality we live in. Personally, I have had an experience involving a gun that took place in what was supposed to be the safety of my own home. I encourage you all to listen to my speech to hear about how gun violence is affecting our day-to-day lives and our future. I aim to both share my personal experience with gun violence and educate you on the severity of this issue. One way I can think of to show how real the issue of gun violence is would be to share my own personal experience to hopefully put forth the idea that these types of experiences really can happen to anybody. On what was supposed to be a fun, exciting day, the 4th of July, I experienced a gun scare in my own yard. The day started like any other day. I was getting ready to go to my summer job. As I walked into the kitchen to get some breakfast, I noticed a strange man in my backyard. I quickly went to tell my mom what I saw, and when I did, she assumed it was just the neighbor. I made it clear that this man didn't appear to be one of our neighbors and encouraged her to look out the window to see if she recognized him. My mom quickly made the assumption that the man was not one of our neighbors, and this is when we both became somewhat alarmed with the situation. Around this time, we heard a knock on our front door. This is the point in our story where other people become involved, and the other people happen to be our actual neighbors from down the street. When we answered the door, the neighbors told us they had seen a strange man wandering through their yard. They saw that he was heading in our direction and wanted to know if we had seen him. As we were about to confirm that he was in our yard, he walked out of the woods right into the front of our house. At this point, we could see the man had a gun. The neighbor tried speaking to him, but he would not respond. The neighbor followed the man in an attempt to talk to him as the rest of us waited on the front porch and called the police. This is where law enforcement comes into play. The cops took what seemed like an unreasonably long time to arrive, but when they did, they came with 3 squad cars, an ambulance, and a paramedic vehicle. Once everyone arrived at the scene, they began the search for the man who had wandered off into the woods. After searching for a short time, the police had no luck when it came to finding him. Believe it or not, the police actually left without finding the suspect and told us if we saw him again to give them a call and they would come back. Almost immediately after the police left, we heard gunshots and the man appeared out of the woods holding the gun and ran onto the neighbor's property. We called 911 again, and when the police arrived for a second time, they were able to chase the man down and restrain him. We came to find out that the man was under the influence of both drugs and alcohol while wielding the weapon. Even so, the police never arrested him. Instead, they were more concerned about whether or not the man was dehydrated and took him to the hospital. We came to find out that after everything happened that day, the man was not even arrested. How are we supposed to feel safe in our own homes when we knew people could walk through our yards without facing the consequences of being arrested while holding a gun? With no repercussion for this type of behavior, it is probable that activities like this will continue to occur. With the lack of gun control measures put in place, gun violence will continue to rise no matter the location, only indicating the severity of this issue more. Homicide rates are higher in states with weaker gun laws. In states where officials have taken action to put strong gun safety laws in place, fewer people die due to gun violence. In states like Massachusetts, Hawaii, New Jersey, the average gun violence rate is 4.5%. These states would be considered national leaders when it comes to gun safety measures. In states where there are little to no safety measures put in place, like Kentucky, Missouri, and Mississippi, the average gun violence rate is 29%. These states would be considered national failures. Mississippi has the weakest gun laws and the highest firearm death rate in the country. At 28.6 per 100,000 people, Mississippi has the highest firearm death rate in the country. There are a lot of claims that Mississippi has the weakest gun laws in the country, and it is ranked 50th in the country for having the worst gun laws. Weak gun laws also influence children and teenagers when it comes to homicide rates. In 2020, the states with the highest death rates among children and teenagers were considered to have the weakest gun laws. To connect access to firearms and death, we need to accept the higher levels of firearm ownership and weak gun laws are associated with higher rates of suicide, homicide, violent crime, unintentional death, and shootings by police. The presence of a firearm inside of a home correlates with an increased risk of homicide victimization. There are a number of things that access to firearms attributes to, such as domestic violence, homicide, mass shootings, and community violence, to name a few. States with permissive firearm laws have higher rates of mass shootings, and they also contribute to domestic violence. A woman is 5 times more likely to be murdered when her abuser has firearm access. Along with previously mentioned events, easy access to firearms also contributes to unintentional injuries and death due to firearms. Children are often impacted the most by these types of devastations. Shockingly, every 6 days, a child under the age of 10 is killed by an unintentional shooting. Additionally, each year, more than 1,000 people are shot and killed by police officers, and thousands more are injured. Evidence proves that states without concealed carry laws increase police shootings by 13%. Today, I shared with you why it is important to be educated on how firearms affect our lives and the lives of those around us. It was my goal to both share my personal experience and inform you of the severity of the issue. I hope that you have learned something new about this matter and your eyes have been opened a little more when it comes to the topic of gun violence. With everything happening in today's society, it's hard to focus on just one topic. However, issues like this one influence our future. I hope you feel inclined to do what you can to protect those around you from the dangers of gun violence and hopefully create a world where the death rates we see today are reversed.